Stygian Onslaught has finally arrived, and it's not here to play. I was really looking forward to this new endgame and had pretty high hopes, so now that it's been out for a week or so, what do I think? I think it's driven me a little bit insane is what I think. Being able to do co-op to unlock Fearless saved my ass for the reasons that inspired this video. So how'd I do there? I'll start with what I liked, which is being able to try multiple teams to see what's able to best counter each boss. I initially tried my beloved Hu Tao versus Tulpa, and she's able to do it with Zhangling's help, but the chef is near mandatory for Lava Dragon, so I had to try something else. I eventually figured out that Alhaitham in a Hyper Bloom team is just enough DPS to somewhat consistently clear Fearless, so that's the first boss on lock. Next up is the Lava Dragon. I don't have Knight, so I wrote off any burning-centered teams and went with Verisa in an Overload team. It was really close, but I was able to pull it off with two variants, one with Fischl, one with Yansan. And then I saw a video of some insane madman clearing with Mualani, which I thought was hilarious, so I had to give it a shot. It took a long time, along with crowning her skill and re-rolling a frankly insane feather, but I eventually managed to pull it off and it felt great. It seems like having a high constellation Zhangling or Chevreuse at any constellation is more important than having any specific main DPS. Hell, I watched Limbo Sauce clear with C0 Raiden for Christ's sake.
Just the burst animation, please. Okay. Damn.
But then there's Overseer. I fought this guy before in Abyss and Theater in addition to farming on my ult for Escoffier, so I didn't think anything of it. I was used wisely with good supports and an extra off-field cryo character. I was initially trying teams with the core of Wriothesley, Farina, and Shilonin, but no matter who I put into that last slot, I just couldn't meet the DPS check even on Menacing difficulty. No problem, I'll try a different core. And another one. How about starting entirely from scratch? Still no? How about I try something more unconventional? Not even close. I am not joking when I say I tried a dozen different teams on this boss trying to find a balance between cryo application and high DPS. Melt Hu Tao, Liney, or Diluc, couldn't get halfway through the HP bar. Superconduct Verisa dies instantly to the anti-Night Soul mode. Triple Cryo Shimenawa Hypercarry Sucrose was probably my worst and least effective idea, but I was getting that desperate. I eventually swallowed my pride and joined the official Discord to ask someone to carry me through Menacing so I could move on to Fearless. They bring a Skirk and a Escoffier, and we clear it first try easy. But then the problem repeated in Fearless mode. I can do the other two bosses with a number of teams, but a few days and then a week pass, and I had yet to see a single Fearless clear that uses a team I can actually make. At that point, it's the only boss that hasn't been done with a 4-star only team. I finally cleared on Menacing using Wriothesley in a fucking Hyper Bloom team, the ultimate defeat in my eyes, only slightly below having to use National. But fighting the boss as intended in a freeze team just doesn't get me anywhere. Wriothesley just doesn't have the DPS, especially without Khans or his weapon. I took the freeze team into Abyss to fight Overseer there to see if there's just a fundamental problem with the team. I made sure to choose cards that don't do anything, and how'd it go? I clear easy. A minute and 22 seconds for 4.5 million HP, meaning I went at about 55,000 DPS. At that rate, I should be able to clear Menacing Overseer's 5.5 million HP in only 100 seconds. But in Onslaught, you start with no energy, crippling the team so hard that it just can't manage. And not to mention, that DPS in Fearless trying to take down 7.6 million HP would take 140 seconds, so I just mathematically don't have the damage. So that's when I had the idea for this video. If they want to shill Skirk so badly that they make the in-game mode not clearable on my account without her, fine, I'll get her. I kind of wanted her anyway, I like her, but I wasn't planning on rolling for her just because of a new endgame. I hate having to do that. Don't do that. Do not roll characters just to clear content. That's a terrible idea. So now it's time to see. A level 89 Wriothesley with 999 talents can't clear this endgame, but a Skirk would, so I'm going to take Skirk into Onslaught starting from level 1 and slowly level her up until she's able to clear Menacing and then Fearless with the exact same build and team that Ryo had. The first step was to roll for her. Trying to get Yansan brought me so far into pity that sure enough, a single 10 pull is enough to get me Skirk. Oh, of course. Fun fact, My account's wish tracker goes back to 2.7 when Yelan was released, and since then, I have lost 12 of my 15 50-50s. I have had 2 wins since Sumeru was released, and Variza was capturing Radiance. I had to use another 80 rolls to get Skirk, and right away I rob Ryo of his artifacts and slap a black sword on her to supplement her crit rate, and that's her build done. Time to see how a level 1 Skirk does against a level 100 boss. I don't know what I was expecting, but I definitely was not expecting her to get halfway through its HP bar. I get one shot with 10 seconds left on the clock, but I have a feeling I wasn't going to make it anyway. At level 20, she unlocks her first passive talent, generating those rifts when you trigger the right reactions. Going back in at this level doesn't get me much further, and I time out still only about halfway through its HP. I'm not surprised this didn't do any better since her talents are still stuck at level 1. That changes though when I ascend her past level 40 and raise her skill and burst to level 2. Well, the talent level changes. I still fail to get more than halfway through the boss's health bar. At level 50, with skill and burst at level 4, I finally make a little progress and break the 50% HP barrier. Something that's important to note is that you take a heavy damage penalty when you are a significantly lower level than the enemy you're fighting. I'm dealing with a 50 level gap against a level 100 enemy, meaning I'm taking a 57% damage penalty. The next ascension puts Skirk at level 60 with level 6 talents, and here, something changes. At the end of my first run, I think, wait, that was actually kinda close. So I give it another shot. I get closer, I keep restarting and refining my rotations. It makes a difference, and I start making a tiny bit of progress on its health bar, bringing me ever closer to winning. After half an hour of trying, I get her to level 69 just to get her stats the tiniest bit higher and start going at it again. I get closer and closer until this happens. I just beat Overseer on Menacing using a level 69 Skirk with level 6 talents in a team where my much more invested Wriothesley couldn't even get close. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm not surprised in the least that she did it so much easier, but that just means I'm kind of accepting that Genshin is starting to really accelerate its power creep when before I was a little bit in denial. We're not done yet though. Right after this, I realized that my Charlotte wasn't actually on 4-piece Noblesse, which would have helped a lot, and I probably could have cleared at level 60. But then, I took Skirk straight into the Fearless Challenge exactly as she is, and immediately realized I'm out of my depths with this one. I ascended her to level 70 with level 8 talents and went back in. This wasn't all that much better though, since I was still consistently stuck with about 20% of the boss's health bar left. Even getting her to level 79 didn't help, so it looked like I'd have to ascend her one last time. I think if I had a Skirkening, I could have done it at level 70, possibly 69, but that's going to have to be for someone else to test. In the following couple days, in between progressing through Skirk's story quest for that last bit of Ascension materials, I keep going back in to try to make progress. I try a different team using Layla instead of Ganyu so I can run Calamity of Eshu on Skirk. The damage is definitely better, but after a lot of testing, I decide she just can't do it without the last Ascension. So I get her to her last Ascension, but leave her talents at level 8 and go back to the Ganyu team with Black Sword in hand. Ascension definitely helped a good amount, but after trying for a while, I still can't get close enough to consider it possible. Instead of going straight to leveling Skirk to 89, I go back to Team Layla so I can use Eshu. And on my very first run, Layla's shield runs out and I die. But on my second run with his team, I get greedy and die again. My next couple runs are very, very close and I instantly know it's possible. I keep going and have an unbelievable run where I would have won if I had just attacked instead of autopilot hitting Q like an idiot. I don't let it get to me and I go straight back in with no hesitation. I've suffered too long to feel anything now. My next run is even more insanely close. I'm getting very consistent with this team. It only takes me a handful of runs before finally I get it. So now, it's time to watch a level 80 Skirk with level 8 talents take down Fearless Overseer. Layla took Shilona's Favonius sword for this since I only have the 2 of them, but that doesn't even matter to me. I just take Variza in to fight Lava Dragon and clear it on my literal first attempt. So that's that. I finally cleared Fearless difficulty and got that last reroll feather. I don't even feel happy, just relieved. I don't know what I was complaining about. All I had to do all along was just roll Skirk.